The evening was good. Actually good. People you like, conversation that flowed, nothing went wrong. You laughed. You were present. By any measure, it was a successful social experience. And then you got home, closed the door behind you, sat down, and felt completely, utterly empty. Not sad. Not upset. Just hollow. Like someone had reached in and quietly removed all your energy while you were busy having a good time. And the strangest part? You cannot explain it. Because nothing bad happened. So why do you feel like you just ran a marathon you never signed up for? The answer is not what most people think. And once you hear it, you will never apologize for needing alone time again. Let us start with the most common explanation, because it is the one everyone reaches for and the one that only tells half the story. You feel drained after socializing because you are an introvert. And while introversion is real, and while it does play a role in this experience, reducing everything to that single label misses something much more specific and much more interesting about what is actually happening inside your nervous system during social interaction. Here's what introversion actually means at a neurological level. It is not shyness. It is not social anxiety. It is not even disliking people. Research going back decades, including work by psychologist Hans Eysenck, suggests that introverted brains operate at a naturally higher baseline level of internal arousal, meaning they are already running warmer, internally, before any social interaction begins. And social interaction adds heat. For extroverted brains, that added stimulation brings them up to an optimal level. It feels energizing because they needed it. For introverted brains, it pushes past that optimal level. Not into danger, but into a kind of cognitive and emotional overload that the body experiences as exhaustion. So when you feel drained after a social evening, your brain is not malfunctioning. It hit its stimulation ceiling, and now it needs time to cool down. But here is where it gets more interesting. Because this is not only about introversion. There is a second mechanism at work that nobody talks about, and it affects people regardless of where they fall on the introversion scale. Psychologists call it social monitoring. And it is something almost everyone does, but highly sensitive and socially aware people do at an extraordinary level. Social monitoring is the continuous, mostly unconscious process of reading the room, tracking facial expressions, adjusting your tone, managing how you come across, noticing shifts in other people's energy, calibrating what you say before you say it. It happens in real time, in the background, every single second of a social interaction. Most people are not even aware they are doing it. But the brain is doing it. Constantly. And it is expensive. Think of it like running a background app on your phone. You do not see it. It does not announce itself. But it is quietly using your battery the entire time. After a long social evening, your brain has been running that app for hours. And when you finally get home and close the door, the app keeps running for a little while, processing everything that happened, reviewing moments, filing memories, before it finally, slowly, shuts down. That shutdown is what rest feels like. And the time between the social event ending and that shutdown completing is the hollowness, the emptiness, the exhaustion that arrives after the good time. If understanding your own mind like this feels genuinely useful, if it changes the way you see yourself, consider subscribing to Psyche Simplified. New video every week at 6 p.m. And everyone is built around exactly this kind of insight. Now here is what most people completely miss. And this is the part one find most important. The exhaustion is not a sign that something went wrong. It is a sign that something went right. It means you were actually present, actually engaged, actually showing up fully for the people around you. The drain is proportional to the investment. People who coast through social interactions, who are half present, performing rather than connecting, often do not feel drained afterward because they never fully arrived in the first place. The fact that you feel empty means you gave something real. That is not a liability. That is depth. But there is another layer here that is worth sitting with. Because for some people, the drain after socializing is not just about stimulation overload or social monitoring. It is about the performance itself. There is a concept in psychology called impression management, the ongoing, often exhausting effort to control how others perceive you. And for people who feel pressure to present a certain version of themselves in social settings, warmer, funnier, more confident, more together than they actually feel, social interaction is not just stimulating. It is effortful in a way that goes beyond the neurological. It is identity work. Every conversation requires holding the performance steady, maintaining the version of yourself you want the room to see, while the part of you that is just tired and complicated and real waits quietly at the back. And when you finally get home and the performance ends, that part of you exhales. And that exhale feels like collapse. This is why the drain often feels most intense not after bad social experiences, but after the good ones. Because good social experiences often require the most sustained performance, the most monitoring, the most investment. A difficult conversation is stressful, but at least it is honest. A smooth, enjoyable social evening might require you to hold yourself together in a specific way for hours. And holding things together, even when everything is fine, costs more than people admit. Here is something worth considering. When did you last have a social interaction where you did not monitor yourself at all? Where you were not tracking how you came across, or managing the impression you were making, or adjusting yourself in real time to fit the room? For most people, the honest answer is almost never. Or maybe only with one or two people in their entire life. And the difference in how you feel after those interactions, those rare ones where the monitoring just switches off, is striking. Lighter. Less hollow. More rested, even if the interaction was longer. That difference is the monitoring tax. And understanding it changes how you relate to your own social exhaustion. Let us talk about what this means practically. Because I am not going to suggest you become more extroverted or push through the drain as if it is something to overcome. The research does not support that approach. What the research does support is something simpler and more compassionate. Recognizing that your need for recovery time after socializing is not antisocial. It is not weakness. It is not even unusual. It is a physiological and psychological reality for a significant portion of the population, and treating it as such, rather than as a personal failing, changes everything about how you plan your time and protect your energy. Scheduling recovery time after social events is not indulgence. It is maintenance. In the same way that sleep is not laziness and hunger is not weakness, the need to be alone after people is not a character flaw. It is information about what your system requires to function well. The people in your life who matter will understand this. And the ones who do not, who insist that your need for quiet makes you cold, or difficult, or antisocial, are simply people who have never had to pay that particular kind of attention to how they function. That is not a criticism of them. It is just a difference. And differences in how people recharge do not need to be resolved. They just need to be respected. You are not draining too easily. You are not broken. You are someone whose inner life is rich enough, and whose social investment is deep enough, that being around people costs you something real, and anything worth doing costs something. The question is just whether you are giving yourself enough time to refill. If you recognized yourself in this video, if you have spent years wondering why you feel so exhausted after the things that are supposed to be enjoyable, drop a comment below. Tell me how long it usually takes you to feel like yourself again after a big social event. I read every single one. And if this kind of content helps you understand yourself a little more honestly each week, subscribe to Psyche Simplified. New video every second day. I will see you in the next one.